Like many of you, I really wanted to try Diablo 4. After years of waiting and one KFC sandwich later, I had a beta key and some gas. This video is an in-depth build guide on Rogue. Wait, don't click off yet, this isn't your mom's shadow imbuement build, just let me cook. The pros of this build are, you melt bosses with single target damage, you have high movement to get through trash mobs and go straight for elites, it's really good if you're running a small area of a dungeon and just resetting, it's extremely tanky actually. However, this build really lacks because it needs a high skill point investment, it's extremely gear and aspect dependent, it struggles with mobbing large packs, and it's a high actions per minute class, so it can be taxing on the hands. Before we dive into the deets, I'm just going to showcase some footage so you can see what we're getting into. This is a clear of Dead Man's Dredge in 1 minute and 10 seconds. I found it best not to run the whole thing and just do a small loop and reset. I ran this non-stop during the beta to pretty much get entirely geared. I specifically chose to show you this run because we're about half geared in this run and I made a ton of mistakes, but we're still about to clear it in 1 minute, so it really goes to show how strong this class could be and the overall potential in endgame. As you can see, we're pretty much just rushing all the elites by using our evade, dash, or shadow sneak to get right past those trash mobs. And I hear it now, but can you solo the butcher? Just watch. Did you see it? I mean, yes, there was a 16-second butcher kill, but watch closer. Look at our big beefy HP bar, it's hardly moving at all. At worst, it drops to here. We can literally stand in hordes of monsters and just heal through it. This has me feeling like Kirito in that scene where everyone attacks him and they zoom in and he's just standing there and they zoom in further and his HP bar is just healing through it and the little girl is like, oh my god! In the beta, we also had a chance to fight the world boss Ashiva. Here's some footage showing how we're able to just stick to a target while putting out some serious damage. We're about to get mollywopped by Ashiva and just heal through it. Small disclaimer, I did take a poison resist before this fight started. If you don't know, you should always stand directly behind her, which is her safe spot. Just like you should always make sure you're subscribed for more great videos. Here we're going to get hit once and we're going to use 1 potion. This second hit also applies poison, so we're going to use 2 potions and we'll be just fine. And then we just go right back to cranking out damage non-stop. You'll also notice that our inner sight is constantly up here. Since she's the only mob around us, it keeps proccing non-stop. As we're putting the final blows on us, she hits us again, no biggie, but you could see it absolutely wipes out the other squishies. I was actually able to clear 4 or 5 world bosses every spawn by just phasing in and out because I got so fast at it. One of them I pretty much soloed because everyone is so undergeared. Enough of that. If you're a long-time MMO player like me, you know what really matters. That's right, it's cosmetics and transmogs, baby. Here's my drip. In case you didn't know, there's a wardrobe right next to Kyovashad where you can change your appearance. We use Coven's Cowl for our headpiece, fur-lined robe for our chest, weathered gloves. I use unequipped on the legs because Demon's Blood is a great moisturizer, and we use Highlander boots because we get to see those feet pics are free. We also use Ghoul King's Blade for both of our weapon slots. This build is 100% reliant on its aspects to do anything, so if you don't have these 3 on screen, I really wouldn't recommend it. Our main aspect is Twisting Blades, which creates a small AoE around us for additional damage output. You'll also want to make sure that you have these 2 energy engravings. The first one heals us, and the second one gives us 14 energy back for every 20% of life that we heal. This in tandem with all of our skill choices gives us an almost 100% uptime. I also really like the Shadow Step aspect, which gives us an additional charge of the skill. In turn, we get more mobility, and we can refresh the enhanced Shadow Step's crit chance quicker. For damage aspects, we'll use skills have an extra % base damage based on primary resource available, meaning when our inner sight is up, we'll output even more damage. Basic attacks make the next core skill deal up to 50% more damage. This makes weaving our blade shift in for energy or to phase through mobs actually give us a higher damage output. Increase crit chance against healthy or injured enemies, and crit strikes with core skills, meaning Twisted Blades, increase our attack speed. For defensive aspects, we'll use Evade and Shadow Step leave behind a stun grenade for crowd control. Upon taking damage, we'll drop a smoke grenade for even more crowd control. And the last one we use grants us an additional Dark Shroud when we're bang chillin' still. I do want to note that the first 2 combo with this aspect since it adds an additional duration for our crowd control. For our specialization, we're going to use Inner Sight, which gives us maximum uptime. For the basic skills, we use Blade Shift since we can walk through enemies after we hit. Enhanced Blade Shift gives us hella movement. Fundamental Blade Shift makes the next casting daze when you walk through enemies. Quick sidebar, you can see how clutch Blade Shift actually is in this clip. We misposition pretty bad, but we just auto attack and walk right through her leg to the safe spot, and problem solved. Moving on to core skills, we use 5 points into Twisting Blades. If it wasn't obvious yet, this is our main source of damage. Enhanced Twisted Blades adds additional damage, and Advanced Twisting Blades helps our overall uptime. For agility skills, we'll get Shadow Step for movement and Enhanced Shadow Step to gain an additional crit chance. Also, as a small note, this grants us Unstoppable, which is a fancy way of saying anti-CC. I also took Dash for another movement skill with Enhanced Dash to raise our crit damage. I personally went 3 points in Weapon Mastery. I also think it's really important to use Swords since it's a flat 9% regardless of enemy health. For Subterfuge skills, we'll get Dark Shroud for sustain, Enhanced Dark Shroud to help with the skill's uptime, and Countering Dark Shroud adds a 10% crit chance when there's 2 or more bubbles. I chose to go Dark Shroud over Concealment because I found that I'm able to keep the 10% crit chance up pretty much all the time. We'll also put 3 points in Exploit for another 18% damage. We just skip imbuements entirely. Yes, I know elemental damage is good, but like we don't have enough skill buttons and this just got dropped. For ultimate, we'll use Shadow Clone since this adds an additional 16% to our output. Prime Shadow Clone makes this an unstoppable skill. Supreme Shadow Clone takes our clone's damage from 60 and cranks it up to 80. Here's just a brief overview of my gear on the screen before the beta ended. While aspects are important, we want to ensure that our gear adds other benefits to our build, such as crit damage, crit chance, plus to skills, some type of physical damage buff, or additional recovery bonuses as secondary effects. You can see for sockets, we put some diamonds and an emerald in our jewelry for resistances. Our blades get topazes to help with basic attack damage. In our armor, we're going to use skulls instead of rubies. While this sounds strange, while I was testing, I think that this affects our healing from our aspect. If this proves to be false, rubies might be best in slot. So now that we've gone through all that bullshit, here's the skill rotation. We're usually going to engage with Shadow Step or Dash. We're going to use our Shadow Clone. We're going to use an auto attack to get Blade Shift active. Then we're going to go nuts with Twisted Blades. Here's where the rotation really opens up for some variations. I can't cover every single line of the combo, but I will give some general use cases for each skill. You can use Shadow Step for additional crit chance. You can also use this to reposition your Shadow Clone very effectively. At any point that you have less than 2 Dark Shroud orbs, you'll want to use this skill. Honestly, it's really hard to track with everything going on in the high actions per minute, so you can just hit this when it's up. If you have both your dash charges, you can dash through the enemies and dash back again for the additional crit damage buff. If you're running low on energy, you want to spam Blade Shift up to 5 times, walk through some mobs, and go back to Twisted Blades. In conclusion, I think this build synergizes the best with Rogue's fluid combat style. I also think that it makes the most impact on the field. There's some links down in the doobly-doo below for my skill tree and other build information. I know some people are going to be talking about this build taking advantage of attack move, and attack move is cheating, and why are you cheating in a beta? And here's my reply to you.
He's a beta tester and a cheater! He's a beater!
A beater? Yeah, that's good. I like it. Okay. You can call me a beater. Just make sure you don't confuse me with those beta testers anymore.